Let's get into it, and feel free to use the chat during the whole session to put in comments, to have a discussion, to connect with each other if you're not already. Also feel free to unmute if you want to just jump into the conversation. You're more than welcome to jump into the conversation. Actually, it may be your only chance of saying something, because when I get started, it's very hard to stop me. So please do. All right, you have my encouragement and permission to just jump into the conversation with anything that comes to mind. Actually, we want this to be an interactive session, and the session is called ExOperiences for the same reason. It's actually about sharing experiences about the exponential organizations models, the methodologies, the tools, and anything else that we feel like discussing. Today is about building community. So that's kind of the main sole focus for this session. And it's such a big topic, which you, and I'm pretty sure you all appreciate. So I extended the 60 minutes to 90 minutes right there, because we are trying to cover quite a lot at a high level, but there's so much we can dive into all through the whole conversation if we want to. And that's where you come in. You can actually stop me, you can ask me to, or we can together dive deeper into any of what we are discussing throughout this session, but with the focus on sharing experiences about community building for exponential organizations. This session assumes that we are all somehow familiar with the EXO methodologies. So if you have a foundation course or a bit of practical experience, I think that's more than enough to join us in this conversation. If this is the first time you hear about EXO, then I think you may be a little bit in trouble when I go through some of our tools, but that shouldn't stop you from being here and learning and contributing with anything that comes to mind from your own experience. And just do a quick welcome also to Justina and to Payal and to Alex. Great to have you here. Awesome.
Hi Lars, hi everyone.
Good to hear your voice as well. Let's just call it a sound check and a calibration across channels here. So wonderful to be here together. Let's get started. So we have a case study for today as well. So it's not just tools and process, but we have a practical case study to build this on, and that's planet pilots. And some of you are very familiar. Some of you are part of building the whole thing, and others of you may not yet have heard about it. But it is an exponential organization, and we are using the EXO methodologies and tools to build Planet Pilot. So I'll give an introduction to Planet Pilots in just a moment, give you kind of the 2-minute high-level intro to what Planet Pilots is. Before I do that, I just want to introduce specifically Charlotte, who is here with us from Morocco today. And Charlotte, you can chip in a moment and give your own version of the introduction of yourself. but I really tell you all that you got to meet Charlotte for all the reasons you can imagine. Charlotte is an innovator, a community builder with an amazing track record and experience from many different industries. And Charlotte has been kind of involved in pretty much everything I do, and Charlotte is doing her own groundbreaking work at the same time, and still she's been involved in Educate for Life, in Planet Pilots, and doing building communities in ExO in Morocco, and so much more, and is also a very strong member of our Planet Pilots family. So Charlotte has everything I think we need in the conversation to support the discussion about community building, about technologies for communities, motivational factors for community building, and much more. So Charlotte knows all about the Danish weather, and she's kind of even feeling it in Morocco. So I'm sorry for that, Charlotte. But over to you to say hi, and maybe if you want to correct my introduction, now is your chance.
Sure. So hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Lars, for all the nice words. So today I will be an active participant to try to bring some lesson learned, some best practices about how to build a community. And it's my pleasure to see like Klaus, that was part of the Educate for Life sprints, and Diana, Justina, and Lars also, because they are active core members of Planet Pilot, and all of the new faces I'm happy to meet. So very nice to see you. So yeah, today, if I understand well, it's a case study about Planet Pilot using the ExO Canvas that most of you, I guess, familiar with. And the idea is really to brainstorm and practice our way to learn together how to best engage and build a community. So thank you, Lars, for organizing that.
Thank you for jumping in, Charlotte, with very limited briefing, as always, from my side. So Charlotte is bold and brave, as always, just jumping in. But she can do it because she's doing it all. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you and all your contributions to this conversation. Also questions, just jump in, as I said. There's a lot we can discover and explore and discuss together today. So it's my job to try to be a timekeeper and cover the 9 steps of community buildings, which is not a scientifically validated process or anything, but is really my practical documentation of how I've been building communities, actually for 20 years, but who's counting? So, and I pretty much followed this process every single time without necessarily trying to. So I documented it in this article from 2017, which you may not have had time to read. It's in your mailbox, and I sent it out, I think yesterday, with a reminder about this session. But if you haven't read it, you can do it after the session. In the Zoom chat, there's a link to this resources page. This page is for you. It has the resources that we'll be using throughout this session, and you can enjoy it after the session as well, if you find this useful. Just a quick anecdote. And I'm terribly bad at long anecdotes, so I'll try to keep this one short. But you see a photo here of a power tool tattooed on someone's arm. This is actually an example that blew me off my legs, I think 5 years ago. I was working with Salim, coaching the top 20 or top 50 leadership at Stanley Black & Decker in their US headquarters on exponential organizations methodologies. We came to the community and crowd attribute, and it was my turn to present. So I love community building. So I asked, so what activities and what communities do you kind of manage or initiate at Stanley Black & Decker in relation to community building? And they looked at each other, And they said, actually, we don't know what to do about communities. We want to, and you know, but we don't know really what to be doing. And after a little bit of a few conversations, one of them said, actually, we came across a group of people that love our power tools so much, they're all tattooing their favorite power tool on their skin. And I was like, oh my God, you have these raving fans out there and you're not even interacting with them. Okay, let's do something about that. And it struck me in that moment that I think there are different reasons for creating a community. But one of them for sure is to bring people together around something that they all care strongly about. And those are the communities that I like to build. But there can be other reasons. That can be a pure commercial reason for trying to build a community around a business. Or that can be maybe other reasons. And processes, I'm sure, are different. And you may have a better process than I have. Never mind. If you bring together people around something they all care about, I think you're on the right track. So you can read that more about that on your own time. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Planet Pilots, or not so familiar, you're going to learn quite a bit in the next hour or so when we build the conversations about community building on this case. But I just wanted you not to feel hopelessly lost in the beginning. What is this Planet Pilot thing? So let me just give you a 2-minute, and half of you on this call can do the pitch even better than I can. But let me do it anyway. I love talking about this stuff. So I will keep it short. So it's actually, Planet Pilots is an initiative created by a group of, most of us are parents, but for sure we are all passionate about children and about the future of children. And we came together around a sense of sometimes hopelessness and despair and frustration about educational problems that each of us are facing in our own lives with our own kids, and even we all come from different parts of our planet. We have so far not managed to meet in person yet, but we have that as an objective for this year. we gotta meet in person. We will make it happen. So COVID, be gone. We'll make this happen. But so we are starting out in a domain of education and educational challenges. And there are many of them, right? I'm certainly not going to list educational challenges. But some children are on a great track towards an academic career that they love and that they want, right? So I think they will be fine. No need to worry about those kids. What we care about are the millions and millions of kids that either are not thriving in school, they're just not a fit, they get either expelled or choose to leave, or they're simply not a school in their neighborhood, or any other options. They may have too limited options, or the options are too expensive. If they have an option, typically the schools mass educate our populations for industrial age jobs, not for complex problem solving across borders and cultures. So these are just a few of many, many, many problems. I have a much longer presentation on that. I'll spare you today. We also know from a lot of research that the market really wants something different from what the educational systems are delivering. So we think there's plenty of space in the world for alternatives to education. And that's what we intend to do something about by creating a paradigm shift that cuts the ropes to education on the long term and creates a credible, meaningful alternative for those that wants to thrive also at a young age and live a meaningful life, do what you're passionate about, see yourself learning and accomplishing faster with increasing happiness as one of the personal benefits. So we are transitioning one child at a time from education to empowerment. We believe there's a lot of magic in the empowerment paradigm that are simply not possible in the educational paradigm. So we actually, just to give you a flavor of where we're heading, we want to be the Google Maps or the ways of discovering where you are right now in life, not geographically, but in life, and help you to where you should be going, which direction, where are the roadblocks, where are the detours, what's the consequence of choosing each of these routes in life. On that journey, on that ride through life, you will be meeting people, you will be capturing ideas for your own personal journey, and others can help you do that. That's the Pinterest side of where we are going with this. So what if there's a GitHub of you that allows the world to be your mentors, to be your supporters, to be your teammates, to be your partners one way or another at different stages on your journey. Just like software developers on GitHub are not hired on the academic grades and diplomas, but on the GitHub ranking. That could be an empowerment or accomplishment ranking. So that's kind of the general direction we're heading with the Planet Pilots. So I hope that was within the 2 minutes that I gave myself, relatively. That was just to introduce you to the Planet Pilots. Now, we'll get to the rest of the resource page in a moment. But I wanna get back to the 9 steps of community building. Not the article, but I want to invite you to join me in this Mural Canvas. And in the resource page, there's a link, so you can, I'll show you here. You can either just follow on the screen, it's live here, so you can move it around, you can zoom in and out, or you can click the link, you click here, and that opens up this Mural Canvas in a separate tab, whatever you prefer. You're welcome to contribute in the document, put in some stickers with ideas, suggestions, questions if you like, comments, or you're welcome to just observe and just speak up when you feel like it. So the 9 steps, and I'm going to have Charlotte to join in just a moment, because the journey, the 9 steps, begins with a massive transformative purpose. That's what binds all of us in the community together. That's the thing we really care about. That's what connects us in this community. And that's the glue also that keeps us together when time flies and we get busy doing other things. And if our massive transformative purpose is something we really care about, we will keep putting in effort in this community and in the activities that the community is created to handle. And and the MTP for Planet Pilots is a healthy planet managed by empowered kids. So we want to empower every child on the planet. There's about 2 billion of them right now. We're starting small, of course, but we want to empower each of them to start early in life, actually making meaningful contributions and accomplishing things that builds their own, that builds themselves. No need to wait 15 years after you've gone through an education to begin doing what you love doing. You can start today. I have an alternative MTP, which I haven't shared with the team, so it has a yellow post-it because it's at my own expense here. It's something in general that I think is an MTP for everything I do these days. It's about same planet, different world. We are really trying to create a whole different world, but we only have this one planet to do it on, and we love this planet. So we want to take good care of it and hopefully make it even better. So the MTP is critical when it comes to community building. That's the first step. And what else is a motivational factor? And that's the cue that brings in Charlotte again here, because Charlotte has been instrumental in studying the motivational factors of participants who work in virtual communities of practice, and this study was done on the case of Educate for Life. So it's same family. It's actually the Educate for Life sprint that started Planet Pilots as well. So Charlotte has both been a co-author of a paper that has been presented, and also I'm going to share it here. The other thing, part of this work is also this model here, which shows the motivation factors to participate in a virtual community. So Charlotte, I'd like to bring you on stage here again to give us a summary of what are these motivational factors. How do you see this when you want to create a community?
Sure. So I will explain that in 3 minutes, and then we can refer our nice participant to an article, a longer article if they need more details. So as Lars explained, I wrote a research article with a friend of mine, Lucine, about Educate for Life. So we did a couple of interviews with some members of Educate for Life community. And the key synthesis, if I can say, is the drawing shown by Lars. And actually, we realized that a member has something to give and something to receive. And when they receive a lot, they are very motivated to engage and be active in the community. So actually what a member can give, it's as you, when you're part of the community, you can give your time, you can give your talents because you're skilled in something, and you can give your effort. So it's like your free money. Even you could give your money, by the way. And what you can receive actually, and what will motivate you to be part of a virtual community, as we try to symbolize on this drawing, is the MTP. Because all of the members we have been interviewing, they were interested, attracted, and it was a way to retain them to be active in this community if the MTP was attractive to them. So I think it's the first thing to draft either with them or draft something with your core team, and then to make sure to attract the right people you want to have in your community. Another important role is the energizing leader. So in all community, and you can also find that in the article written by Lars with the 9 points, is like you need someone that is driving and guiding this community. Even, of course, you need to listen a lot to the needs of your member, but you need someone that is making decision. And also energizing leader, it means someone that is inspiring, that is so motivated that it will be contagious of a member, and that will also help to attract and motivate the right people. And then we use also all the theory called self-determination, where we realize actually the members, they are motivated when they have autonomy, competence, and connection. And in a nutshell, autonomy is about they need to be able to make the decision and be the entrepreneur of their life. And autonomy in the sense that they should be able to have the roles they would like to play in this community. So let them be creative about what is the role and position they would like to have. It's also about competence and learning. A lot of people, they are joining virtual community because it's a way for them to grow their skills, to develop, and also sometimes to be recognized for their knowledge and be able to mentor and provide some peer-to-peer learning to others. And it's a high level of motivation for some people. And the last point is connection. When we did the interview among the members of Educate for Life, we realized a lot of them, they were interested by the fact they could develop their network among a very rich and diverse community of people from different countries, different backgrounds and fields. And to summarize, that's a way you can remember some important points you should have in mind. And the thing that is not mentioned on this drawing is also the unique content and resources you can provide to these people. That is a way for them to be motivated to come regularly in your community, because they know they will find unique things that they cannot find on Google or somewhere else. And it's also a reason to join a community. So I hope it's helpful to see like the key component that can motivate people. To you, Lars.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. I'm going to give everybody a chance to ask questions or throw in comments. We're happy to. I asked Charlotte, if we can share this article. So we agreed that you can have a copy. So I'll send you the details about the article after the session here. Any comments or questions this far? There's a lot here that speak to the ExO Canvas, and you're going to see that in the rest of the session, how also I see the ExO Canvas and the ExO Attributes can be applied on a community design to get the benefits really of an exponential organization, being purposeful and being also scalable in the ways that we work with each other. We can connect everybody on the planet as long as they have an internet connection, which is still a big challenge in many areas. Starlink and others may be part of the solution to close that gap and bring everybody online. And that allows us then to do community building at an even bigger scale and build even more diverse communities. That's going to be exciting. So we'll get to some examples of all this throughout the rest of the presentation here. So it's a bit of a colorful and maybe a messy canvas, but I'll walk you through it and share the examples that I have decided to bring to you today. This is all based on Planet Pilots. Don't worry if you don't know much about the Planet Pilots. These are just examples. See them as examples. And anyway, all of this is just a snapshot and actually a few needle points of the whole picture of the Planet Pilot. So you're going to hear a little bit about some objectives of the Planet Pilot, what we want to accomplish, and how we are designing to accomplish that. But these are just a few elements of a much bigger picture. But to simplify things for today, this is hopefully a useful set of examples. So the next step, now we are more aware of the need for motivational factors, and we know what the motivational factors are in our particular community. We have a clear, massive transformative purpose that everybody is attracted to, that makes us all gravitate around this purpose. So that's the first step. From my own experience, because actually pretty much all the communities I've been building, and literally for 20 years, I think I have an anniversary this year. When you do this online, you need interfaces. Otherwise, how can we work together remotely? And I've come across this every time I've started a community. So how do we meet? How do we collaborate? What are the interfaces that allows us to get started? The telephone is obviously there, but it's limited in functionality. So what do we do? So interfaces comes in as the second step in the 9-step process. It's actually essential to even get started. After you have met people, probably on other interfaces in other communities, that's where you probably meet people, and you see a new MTP taking form and shape, and you see a desire to actually create this community. So now you need your own set of interfaces to allow this community to get started. That's step number 2, indicated with the gray circles. That's just my little numbering system to take us through the 9 steps. What you see in step number 2 is for Planet Pilots, we have identified 4 phases, 4 stages that every child will be going through on the journey as a Planet Pilot, as an empowered child that are doing meaningful things and accomplishing things at an early age. It could be small things, but things that really builds that child to have a stronger self-belief, and then you can accomplish even more next time you try. So the 4 stages are discovery, onboarding, scaffolding, and what we call the end game. The end game is really the next 20 years where you're building your whatever you want to build in life. But that doesn't mean that it ends there. It's I see this as a circular process where you actually discover again and you get onboarded in something new which is meaningful. These life cycles tend to accelerate and tend to get faster and shorter with many things in life, I think. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. But anyway, we see these 4 stages, and we are actively building interfaces to accommodate the 4 stages that face different needs and requirements for the children that are working and living as Planet Pilots out there. So the interfaces have a yellow post-it because this is a work in progress. I'll tell you more about what we do have later, but we are building new interfaces to accommodate these 4 phases. Exactly, that's the visiting horse showing you the yellow post-it note on the screen. Thank you. What we do have, we have quite a lot. So let me tell you a few examples of what we have. We have a membership portal for where you can help yourself out on signing up on a membership. You can administrate your own membership. You can handle payments, etc., etc. All this is in place, and we'll get back to the interfaces later. I want to just park the interfaces for now, obviously, not for long, but for now. So interfaces was step number 2. Let's have a look at social technologies. Now we're talking of interfaces. What I just said before is you need interfaces from day one, and you probably shouldn't build them yourself unless that's what you're really good at. I'm not really that good at building interfaces, so I jumped right at one of the existing community platforms, community building and management platforms. There's quite a few of them, and this is step number 3, the social technologies. Let me just zoom in here, because I have put in some examples, and some of you can probably relate to them. Sorry, I'm learning to navigate this thing here. Let me zoom a bit out again. That was too much. I know that. So, all right, here we go. So, at Planet Pilots, we call... sorry about this. So let me try again. Here we go. There we go. What you get out of the box is quite a lot when you pick a community building and management platform. There's quite a lot of them out there. I'm not going deep into any of them today. I actually decided this is a whole session in its own right, which we'll do at a later stage, to compare these platforms, pros and cons, and And we have tried them all. I think we have tried a lot, and we test them. We constantly test platforms when we discover new ones that we didn't know about. Simply because we keep learning, and you know, one thing. So a couple of social technologies that I hear many communities rely on is Slack and Discord, right? And there's also Telegram, and there are other similar, and WhatsApp. And there are actually very big communities out there doing a lot of meaningful community work just on a WhatsApp channel. And that's it. So you don't need to build a castle to get started. Just get started, right? With whatever tool you have. And then you can kind of, as you need more functionality, then you can advance. But my suggestion is don't try to build this stuff by yourself unless that's what you're really good at, of course. Use the excellent tools and platforms that are available in the market to get started. And when you see the community growing and becoming more focused, and then you also know what kind of platform that you need to support this community, what kind of social technologies. I jumped at Mighty Networks very early on, so I have a lot of experience from that. I can speak to that and show and demonstrate and all sort of stuff. I'm not going to do that today in the interest of time, but we see other platforms out there. I'm pretty sure Charlotte knows a lot about Mobilize from the ExO Morocco community. Is that right? Or was it from one of your other communities?
Yeah, actually, I've been streaming a lot of social platform, and I wanted to engage. So Mighty Network is one very well known. You also have Slack that is very well integrated with all the Google ecosystem. And Discord is I would say, open and easy also to use, but maybe it looks more like for geek guys, even if it's the channels and everything. And Mobilize, I selected that because it's very simple. There was a mobile app, and it was the minimum functionality you could offer to share resources and have channels and discussion. Yeah.
Right. So I think we'll do a whole separate session on these platforms another day, because that's interesting in its own rights. But you can also find a platform like Tribe out there, which is also a highly used and recognized platform. I've tried it as well. It looks great. I think I would pick it if that was the first platform I came across, but I decided not to experiment too long with it. It didn't really give us much that we didn't have with Mighty Networks. Maybe you guys gotta just have a quick look at, this is a Mighty Networks. This is actually the Planet Pilots Empowerment Hub, as we call it. This is where our Planet Pilots get together. They connect around common interest and projects and activities. We are right now actually doing an onboarding program with the school in Colombia. So we have 20 10-year-olds right now, literally as we speak, going through a Power of AI quest. They just did a purpose quest last week. So there's a 4-week program, quite intense, that they're going through. It's a lot of fun, and obviously we wanted to bring them all together somewhere online, and we're using Mighty Networks, but we are building another platform. That's for another day, I think. But you can search for topics. You can have live discussions. You can share content. Here you see activities that are scheduled. Working groups in here on the 4 pillars of the Planet Pilots, which is about tech and team human symbiosis, real world accomplishments, empowering beliefs, and you see also the a lot of access to to tech support if needed, the purpose quest, other schools that have been part of this. So just to give you a very quick look at a mighty network which we are using. So feel free to jump in again. I'm done with the social technologies. I highly recommend early in the process to jump on a platform, just choose one that seems good and get started. Make sure not to lose momentum for your early days community. So the next step is step 3. So this has 2 parts to it, the community and crowd, and the staff on demand. It's all the human resources, if you like, all those questions. So the MTP brings a group of people together around what we care about. So who are these members, right? It's very important to understand our community, understand why we're here. We care about empowering children. That's what brings us together. So what do you want to accomplish, right? Maybe you want to accomplish something at home in your family. Maybe you want to accomplish something with the school that your child attends, or maybe it's something else. So understanding what makes the community interested in keeping the steam up and keep doing activities. This is super important to understand at this early stage. And this feeds right into what activities would be great for this community to get started. We are all about empowering children so they take the initiative. They just get started and they start initiatives and activities without our involvement. That's what we want to see happening. The same goes for communities of adults, right? Really, you don't want to be the one creating all the activities. If you're the community builder, you want to see the community driving those activities. And some will, and that's great. One of the problems that we love trying to solve with planner pilots is that we have kind of been brought up waiting to speak up when somebody asks us to speak up and take action when somebody tells us what to do. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just saying this is a mindset problem that we see kind of all the time. Both us as adults is like, hey, should we wait and see what happens? Or should we just get started what we know is the right thing to do? Our children are all well behaved, and they are also waiting probably to see, where's the teacher? When is the teacher starting the session? What are we supposed to do today? And this is a mindset problem, really. It's a global one, and we want to fix this. We want to empower everybody. So if you want to build a robot, then we are here to help you to find out who can help you, what do you need, what technologies are there, what's the process for building a robot. Let's figure it out. But you gotta get started. So there's an entrepreneurial element in this, and you want the community members to take that initiative. But it's difficult for many. It's very difficult for many to take that initiative, to take that leadership, and that's something you may need to help the community members to understand that, hey, this is your community, it's not mine. So that's what I wanted to say about the community and crowd for now. We'll come back to it. The other aspect of this stage is the staff on demand, because, well, we come together because we love empowering children, but that doesn't mean that we are qualified to do anything really that we need to get done. So we have a lot of skill gaps, and we have some in our team. We feel sometimes that we have superpowers, and we think we have, but there are some superpowers we need to find in others. And fortunately, we are finding them. And sometimes they want to be part of the community and part of the mission, and others not so much, but they will be more than happy to bring their magic to our service, and we'll pay them for it, right? So they are what we call staff on demand, obviously. We are using help staff on demand for design of visual experiences, even though we do have some skills in our team. Tech development is not our strong side, so we have some magicians who are helping us on that side of things. So staff on demand is something to consider, and that comes into play now that you have a community, you have a pool of skills and resources and all of that, and then you also probably have some skill gaps. So when you want to accomplish something in your community, there's probably something you need to buy from somebody else. So that's step 3. That's the human kind of, let's call it the human resource side of things. So step number 4, I think I want to maybe speed up a little bit in the interest of time, keep my stories a little bit shorter, but I want to give you the chance to jump in as well. So are there any questions or comments at this point? Not so much. Okay, so step number 4 is about autonomy, and it's about the fact that there are a lot of communities out there already, and there are lots of communities. In our case, when it comes to empowerment of children, actually some communities that are really active are homeschoolers, parents of homeschoolers. Some have simply failed in the education system can be all sorts of reasons. And it can be really hard to to actually find a school that is a good match with your child. This is not straightforward, and if you as parent don't accept that you just use the school district school, then you are looking for something else. And there are many groups of families who are finding other solutions, right? It's not necessarily homeschooling. Some are unschooling. Some do alternative types of education. There are all sorts of solutions, which I think is fantastic, because we need something for everybody here. So what I'm saying here is there are existing communities full of people, amazing people, that may be a great match for what you want to do with your new community. So before you actually start a community, or in the early stages, find out what other communities are there that are doing something relatable and related, and maybe we just join that community if the match is 100%, or maybe it's not 100%. It's typically not, but then you will collaborate. Maybe you will find more community members in that other community. All communities are actually spin-off of other communities, essentially. So so this is important to be aware of. For Planet Pilots, just to touch again on this particular case, the existing communities that have been an incredible incubator, if you like, has been OpenExO. We are using the OpenExO methodologies here, but we are also working very closely together with many from our OpenExO community. So we are very grateful to find such fantastic support and involvement. I think we have had at least 20, if not more, mentors and advisors that stepped in and said, hey, I can help advise you guys on this and that. And parents joining and bringing their amazing kids in from this community. Also, Singularity University and Abundance 360 have been some communities where many have actually been joining our activities. I think because we probably speak the same language, and we are all interested in creating a better future and using the best ways we can create better futures. Also, exponential technologies and all that. So we find these communities to be very supportive and great places to find collaborators. But there are many, many, many more communities out there that you need to identify and contact as you grow your own community. This is step 4 in the process. Step 5 is about leverage assets. I'm going to keep that part super short because for Planet Pilots, we are born virtual. We're connecting children across the globe through the internet. Obviously, there are no physical assets. Not obviously, but when we started this a year and a half ago, all kids were in lockdown due to COVID. They were all sitting at home, and some of them bored out of their minds and very happy to see other kids and meet new friends. So we all join in from home, right? So and we have schools also part of our programs. So we leverage the school facilities, the school infrastructure, internet connection, which is not always as good as we could have hoped, there's a lot more. But for us, we are truly virtual organization, and we really have no assets of our own. Everything is leveraged assets. So that's an easy one. It may not be as easy for you, depending on what you're trying to do with your community. But obviously, you know how to apply the leverage assets attribute on your thing. All right, engagement. Engagement. Here's a lot to talk about, and I want to bring in Diana here. And I know you only have 4 minutes left, Diana, before you have to jump off. I tried my best. So Diana, what I would like you to do is give us a 4-minute update on octalysis. I think it's worth introducing this.
Exploring. Thank you, Lars. I actually moved my upcoming meeting, so I have some extra time. But I'll try to be short. This is something I really like. So let's get to it, right? We're trying to analyze engagement towards community building, right? In other words, how can we leverage the engagement attributes to create an experience, right, that encourages desired behaviors that we believe lead to an evergreen community, right? So this really takes us to human-focused design versus a function-focused design, right? What function-focused design assumes is that users will go through a process that you have established for them, right? That means a fully functioning app or service that sometimes users actually don't end up using, right? So that's where human-focused design comes in. And what human-focused design does is that it systematically analyzes how to add motivators, right? What could be game mechanics to increase the chances that our users will actually indeed follow the process that we have designed for them, right? So as Lars mentioned, our favorite tool right now at this stage is the octalysis framework. It was created by Yukai Cho, and he's actually advising us in the stage that we are in right now, which is, again, brainstorming what are the game elements that we can apply in our desired actions, right? To make that process fun, engaging, right? And increase the chances that kids actually do end up going through projects, right? And using those projects as a reflection point to guide, again, what is that next point that I want to go through, right? And so to explain very briefly what this framework allows you to do is it starts by defining the strategy, right? What is the strategy specifically for this engagement experiment that you're putting in place, right? So you define what are the key metrics. In our case, it's peer-to-peer value exchange, right? In the platform, we want, and this is something that Charlotte also mentioned as vital for communities, right? And it's that they feel they get something that they wouldn't have gotten elsewhere, right? They're receiving a lot of value from the community. And we want to use this game mechanics, right, to try to increase our chances for being that aha moment of, whoa, I just received something from a kid that's in other part of the country, and you know, I wouldn't have found this resource or this information elsewhere, right? So it's defining what, because you're putting a lot of hypotheses when you start to think, okay, this way, this might increase the chances for a kid to complete the project, right? But they're all hypotheses. So it's important that, you know, we have that metric, and then you analyze, are my strategies actually getting me there, right? And if they're not, what else could I do to actually increase the chances that they complete a project per se, right? So it starts by defining a strategy, and then you have to analyze the process you have established for your users at different stages, right? So Lars mentioned it briefly, but if you think about experiences, there are different stages to the experience, right? One is the discovery phase. How do they actually hear about you? How do you actually gather the people and get them into your world, right? And whether that's your website or your landing page or whatever it is, what is that message? And what will motivate the users to come to your landing page or your website or that first stage, right? Then it's the onboarding. So you have them in, they see the value, they're motivated to now get started and understand what it is that you want to do. So there's an onboarding, and each of these stages has different, again, desired actions that you assume these users will want to take, right? So whether that is see your ad, come into your landing page, read your about page, then register, all of these are steps that you should identify and that you should try to analyze and brainstorm on what can I leverage to make this more exciting, right? How can I make this, you know, as likely as possible to happen? So there is the discovery, there's the onboarding, right? Then there is the scaffolding, which is like once your users have seen the main features you have to offer, what is that activity that you want them to continue coming for, right? In Facebook, if you look at Facebook, well, it's coming in, you see your notifications, then you go to the home page, right? And you see everybody that's people has posted, you can like, share, right? So there are some things that your user is going to repeat when they come to your platform, right? And that's sort of like the scaffolding. And then the end game, as Lars mentioned earlier, is what is the lifetime of your experience, right? How long do you want them to be engaged in your experience? And so what gamification says is that the motivation for a user to go from one stage to another changes at each stage, right? Like you have to think, what would be the motivation for them to see my message and want to join me? That's one. How do I motivate them to kind of like discover all the main features that I have available for them? That's another one, right? There's a scaffolding. Okay, how do I motivate them to come on a daily basis to do these sort of things, right? And then the end game is the most challenging one, because once your users have done this, how do you get them to continue doing this for a long time, right? So there are different perspectives from which you can brainstorm on how to actually engage users in that process that you have defined for them. Again, it all starts by you actually putting down all these assumptions that you're thinking the users will go through, right? They'll click on a form, they'll fill out a form, they'll then log in, right? And then see, okay, filling out a form, right? That sounds simple, but if it's too long, some users could drop out of at that specific point, which means that if they didn't fill out the form, they didn't even get to see the value of your service, right? Because that was the first stage. So then you use that as a brainstorming opportunity, right? If they have to fill out a form, how do I increase the chances for them to actually complete that form, right? And so that's where the strategy comes in. UKite has identified 8 main core drives that encourage people to take action. And so what it says is that now you go with each of these actions and you start brainstorming. How can I make this more meaningful? How can I give choice of the participants in the answers, you know? Or perhaps how can I bring in some unpredictability and curiosity, right? So if it's a form and you're asking them, you know, what's your occupation? Once they put their occupation, you could say, hey, there are 100 more engineers in this platform, right? Or, hey, this is actually something that's missing, right? So you could give them feedback as they fill out that form to increase their chances of completing it, because it's always new information that adds value to that user, right? So that's what this system really allows you to do, and it's systematically analyzing the experience of your process, right? And not really leaving it up to chance, which is what usually happens. So that's what we're doing so far. We have experimented with, you know, an international cohort, different empowerment activities that we found very successful. And what we've done now is create that experience, that process that we want them to go through. And we are at a stage of brainstorming, okay, how can we make all of these steps engaging and motivating? And that's why we're working with a partner, a tech development platform that can allow us to do these things and can allow us to make it more visual and engaging, right? And so that's a bit about the Octalysis framework, and I highly suggest you to look further into it, because otherwise I'll take all your time here, Lars, to go in detail.
That was fantastic, Diana. This is so important to bring to everybody's attention, because engagement is so critical that you get it right. In the early days, everybody's motivated and, can spend a few hours here and there. But, if we are in the space of transforming education, that's a long end game, guys, right? And most of you are probably also working on and in a community of some sort that is playing a long end game. This is not a 2-week project that you want to do. It's something to transform something and change something systematically and dramatically over a long period of time. That is not easy to keep your community engaged on the long game. So that is why you need also to not just gamify a little bit by offering some incentives for showing up, but have a real design for your engagement strategy. And here's a framework that we found to be incredibly powerful, and we're sure you will as well. We will probably do a separate session on that part as well, because there's clearly, as you can tell, a lot more to talk about. But in the interest of time, we're just going through the 9 steps here, and this is step 6. So thank you very much, Diana, for giving us that brilliant summary right there. Great. So I will move forward. Let me just, before I move forward, so I want to relate what we are talking about here with long-term engagement also to ExO sprints just for a second, because many of you are doing sprints or similar processes that, well, we tend to say that's a long process. It's not, right? It's maybe 10 weeks, it's maybe longer, it's maybe shorter. But if you want to do a systemic change of something, if you want to transform, you're not talking about a 10-week project. You're talking about something that will take years, probably many years, right? You may be coming up with new ideas for new initiatives. You will do your experimentation. Some will work. You bring that to market. That starts to do its magic. Here we are probably 5-7 years out before you really see some impact, probably. That cycle tends to accelerate and shorten as well, but it takes time, and so if you are working with a sprint client, you need to prepare for this. You need to prepare for community building.
Good job.
Yes, thank you. Lucas dropped by and said good job. The good job is if you manage to build a community around the transformation activities that you're leading, right? One such activity, we are right now advising a venture capital fund, that wants to actually transform and leapfrog education and raise funding for that. And that is also not just about coming up with great ideas to invest in. It's also about making it all happen, executing, seeing it implemented, follow through, supporting those new ventures that think and act differently from the education system that they want to leapfrog. So this is community building on very long term, and you need to design a strategy for all of that. And this is why community building is so critical a component. So we thought it would be worthwhile spending 90 minutes talking you through the 9 steps to make that happen. And here are some just a few of the tools and processes that can be super helpful as you do that yourself. So step number 7 is community management. I'm not going deep into that, but obviously it takes some management as well. Most can be successfully decentralized, and it works actually really well if you trust the process to have autonomous teams that go and do magical things that support your MTP, and without the need of any management. To get transparency about what's happening out there, I recommend the objectives and key results framework, the OKRs, and we have done several community sessions on that. I can send you the links to the recordings and all the material and presentations and resources for all of that. So we're not covering that today, but I do want to just highlight a few of the objectives for the Planet Pilots. And we are working with OKRs as well, because with a transparent dashboard where we can orientate ourselves what's happening right now, what are the objectives of the different teams, what are the key results that we need to accomplish at the different in the different locations of our ecosystem. The OKRs are really, really useful to make that happen with as little management as possible. But the objective that we are aiming for is actually empowering 50,000 Planet Pilots, 50,000 kids by the end of this year. And this is why we need a platform, this is why we need interfaces, this is why we need community resources, this is why we need autonomy, social technologies, engagement, all of this. Because it's easier to say just go to school, but if you want something else, you are probably up against an immune system in society and the traditional way of thinking about, well, there is other ways of living. So 50,000 children by the end of this year. And we're talking about families joining. We're not talking about necessarily the schools here. We are kind of measuring those differently in our objectives. We expect to run 5 proof of concept programs with 5 schools this year. We are 1.5 weeks away from finishing the second, and well on track to have the other 3 schools joining. That's a different setup. I'm not going into that setup today, but that will, some of those Planet Pilots that experience our program from a school environment, they actually join through the platform and engage with kids from around the world because they get so excited about that opportunity. So they start at a school program, but they transition into our global network of families. And then we want intentionally to have a very minimal core team because we have an amazing ecosystem with magical superpowers all around in the community, and we can supplement with staff on demand if and when needed. So, and by the end of this year, we have this proof of concept for our platform, which we call the Empowerment Hub, launched as minimum viable product by the end of this year with all our Planet Pilots onboarded. So we're working very hard on that platform. 10 years out, we want to connect 100 million children worldwide through this platform. So we need to be bold, and then some say, hey, but what about the other 2 billion children? Well, okay, so that would be the following 20 years or 10 years. So we got to start somewhere. So that was that was about it. When we get to a large number of Planet Pilots and parents and teachers, obviously, the dynamics in the community are that everybody wants to engage with everyone, or should be able to. Because if a child is interested, let's say in robots, just to stick with that example, they are interested in robots. Now, it just happens that, and let's say it's one of our Planet pilots in Colombia that wants to build a robot. Now, it just happens that we have an award-winning robot builder in New Zealand. It's one of our other Planet pilots, right? Wouldn't it be amazing that those two can connect around that shared interest, and maybe even do some projects together on robotics? So, so this is where I'm back at the interfaces in step number 8 out of the 9, of course. We're back at the interfaces to make sure that everybody can access everybody in this platform. and this becomes really important when we start to scale. At the early stages, everybody knows everybody, but we're already past the stage with Planet Pilots where everybody knows everybody, which is exciting. It's also exciting for us because now we really need to build this platform. So that was about interfaces one more time. Then I just want to take you here to the last bit, which is the information side of the canvas. So I haven't put much in here, but this is obviously a very rich information stream. There's a lot of types of data that we have. There's a lot of data that we need but don't have. We need processes and strategies for how do we collect data for our algorithms. I didn't cover the algorithms so much, but I can do that quickly. Can we access, buy, or rent the data? You know the drill. But working with children's personal data kind of sets the bar high in terms of what others can expect of you, in terms of privacy, data privacy, data management, all these factors. You need to get this right all the time. So there's a lot here, and we're not really going into the data today. But I am going a little bit into the algorithms that will be using our data and the data of the Planet pilots. We believe some of the determining or some of the indicators for success with what we are doing. One is increasing happiness score. Measuring happiness is something actually human beings are really good at. Technology still needs to learn whether Lars is happy or Lars is maybe okay happy or maybe not happy at all, right? We are starting to see technologies that are getting a lot better and almost good enough, I think, but humans are really good at this. So when we meet a Planet pilot in a call, we can immediately, usually, know if Lars is happy or not so happy. We want to increase the general happiness actually for each of the Planet pilots. So there's a need here for algorithmic support when we operate at scale, and also to make sure that every Planet pilot successfully accomplish some breakthroughs, personal self-discovery breakthroughs, and because then we can best support each child on their personal journey through this program. So there are some technology here that can support us and which we really need at scale. There's another thing which you see on the algorithm which has a yellow node, and that's because we are not we are not quite at the finish line when it comes to this. We are using the ExO token as a way to experiment with accomplishment tokens. We think it takes a redesign or different token to really do what we want to do here. But we want to replace diplomas and certificates with accomplishment tokens, which you really are given by your peers and others rather than by professors. And this can be done manually for sure. That's how it works today. We manually transfer tokens, but this has to be fully automated at scale, obviously. So when you accomplish your goals, that releases your accomplishment token. The goal is something each child sets for themselves. It's not our goal for them. It's not our expectation. It's their own goal. When they accomplish it, it releases an accomplishment token. So it's a blockchain-based token, obviously. So we are playing in that field as well, and we find it important to totally break free of education and find a better decentralized, autonomous solution for that. All right, we've been through the 9 steps, and we have 10 minutes left, and you definitely deserve the chance to bring in questions and comments again. Let's hear from you guys. Also, is it helpful to use the ExO Canvas this way? Do you think you can use this for your own community building, this approach?
Hello, can you hear me? It's Klaus.
Absolutely, Klaus. Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, it's quite new to me that the canvas can be used for parts of what you're trying to do. So if we take each of these attributes, that we can use the attributes for each of the steps, that's very interesting, and I think you have clearly shown the benefits of that.
That was also one of the things I wanted to accomplish today. I'm glad you're saying this, Klaus, because it shows me that hopefully I have accomplished my goal. My goal with this was actually to show that the ExO Canvas can be used at the high level of, designing a new exponential organization or describe one that already exists. But you can actually also do the very same exercise on community building, which we are doing here. That's exactly what we're doing right here. So now the focus is only on the community building, not on the whole exponential organization, just the community building. And we apply the same process, same tool, the ExO Canvas. We apply the 11 ExO attributes just on community building. So that can be done as well. And I wanted to show that as an example of how you can do that as well. Yeah. The last step, which I haven't mentioned, but the last step from my 2017 article is about monetization. The ExO Canvas doesn't really address that, and it's not meant to. And today it's also not addressing it. The point in my article about monetization in community building is to be transparent and upfront in your communication about what are the plans in terms of monetization in your community. Some communities have commercial reasons and objectives, and that's fine. And other communities are allergic to commercial monetization, and that's also fine, right? So you got to be transparent and upfront about how are we doing in this community? Are we planning to charge you guys at some point? Or do we want to cover the cost some other way? What are your intentions? And I have I can share another little anecdote. It was really not about monetization at all. but it comes close, I think. So I just want to bring up an example on my screen here. Here we are. Let me pin light. So this is actually 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I decided I'm a scuba diver. I really don't scuba dive that much, but I love it when I have the chance. And 20 years ago, I decided to create an online bulletin board. Right? These old in those 20 years ago, it was pretty basic, and I used one of these 56K modems. And people dialed into my computer and accessed my bulletin board. And they were all scuba divers here in Denmark. So you can imagine this is a niche community, not super mainstream, and for the few that wants to dive in cold waters in Denmark. But it's actually pretty great if you do it. And many have found out. So there was kind of a community already. They just needed a place to meet online, and I created that 20 years ago. So and it was a bulletin board, and it was a lot of people joined early on, and they were really excited and very active, and they were sharing good places to go diving and arrange diving trips all together and all of that. That was fantastic. Then I got a little bit tired of looking at the interface. What you see here is actually the current interface. I'm not involved in it anymore. I ended up actually selling the stuff to somebody else that wanted to carry it forward. But I was tired of this basic bulletin board structure. I wanted, and I met a company in the US that created a kind of a flash header with a shark tank. So you see all sorts of tropical fish swimming by, and I wanted that. And I bought the template for my website, and I carried on the same bulletin board, but now in a very flashy, colorful design. And I also allowed a few friends of mine that operated commercial diving centers to actually do some promotion of their tours and trips. And half of my community immediately complained and became very vocal about, this is becoming a commercial thing now. That's not what we want, right? And it actually shocked me a little bit, because I was like, guys, it's still me paying for this, and I don't mind, and I just want to keep this running and and make it more shiny. But actually, half of the community left, and I decided, hey, this is like makes me crazy. so it kind of, it went on for a while, and then I sold it to somebody who had big ambitions in this domain. I wanted to do this, and that's great. And today there's no shark tank there. So the community hated it. There were no commercial incentives at all, but some actually thought it would turn into that direction and left. So they were in there because of the thing they cared about. And that's also the kind of communities that are most powerful. That's also the kind of communities we need to transform in this world. And that's what we are trying to build. And I'm here to share with you ways that you can do this by yourself. So that was my last anecdote of today. Any questions or thoughts or comments in the last couple of minutes?
Thank you very much, Lars. If I can jump in, the recommendation I will give about all the ExO attributes are experimentation. When you say, okay, half of the member left my community, I just share a post and say, actually, we cannot anticipate how member will react. So the best way to know what they like or they don't like is to make experiments, hopefully not too costly and short in time. And like this, we can see, what's working, what's not working, a bit like growth hacking. You do some experimentation with digital marketing. And for community, it's a bit the same. You need to test a lot of things with the members, and then you can see what's working or not. And I agree with you also about like systemic change. It's something you can achieve on a year's, like a long-term basis. So it's better if yourself, you're really motivated by the change you want to bring. And you will need to do a lot of experimentation. I think it's the best way. First, it's very exciting because you're excited to do something. And then you will see the result with the way the community behaves. So it's always great. So thank you, Lars.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for your great contributions and additions and experience sharing here. As I said, I hope this has been helpful. I'll put the recording on the resource page and send it out to you guys again. You can access it after today if you want to. Let me know any topic that you would like us to cover in the next ExOperiences sessions. They're here for open ExO friends to so we can come together and share ExOperiences. That's what this is all about. So thank you guys for today. I'll wrap up here in rainy Copenhagen and sending you all the best, sending you some virtual sunshine to wherever you are, and looking forward to learn about your community building activities. Send me some invites, and I'm always curious to see what's going on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great one. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.